It is far too easy to get them to pay attention enraptured. They hang on to my every word and follow my every move. All of it would have been stifling had I not grown so used to such stares. Most are respectful, some are hostile if we are honest, and a few are downright inappropriate. After all, I am...
Hana Wright!
Oh yes, I am Hana Wright. There's a moment of agitation as a familiar but less than welcome face approaches me with a suggestive smirk on his face. Of course, I have to keep a benevolent smile and greet him as I greet any good friend. After all, this man can turn heads, being famous in his own right.
Officer Lee! What a pleasant surprise. I didn't think you'd have the time to attend tonight's party.
He is more Luke's friend than mine, really, and I am quite sure I only invited his wife. Much like I am only friends with the Chief Inspector because of Luke, Luke is only friends with Rochelle because of me. Unlike how I treated Lee, however, Luke never hid his animosity for the Lee matriarch. It was an odd sort of friendship where we would have awkward double dates. I don't even recall his first name. It started with an N, I think. I might be wrong. Aside from being Chief Inspector of Luxborn Police, his wife Rochelle Lee Vance owns a General Electronics company, fridges and freezers mostly.
Oh, I always have time for my favourite socialite couple. Might I say, you look positively ravishing tonight.
Oh boy.
I see the husband isn't with you.
The way he eyes me up is enough to make my skin crawl. I just wish Luke is here to fend off the more unseemly of our peers. You know the ones. Men who are just a bit too friendly, staring too long at my assets, and getting close because my husband is not here. And to think they have the gall to do this at my own party. In my own house, if I might add. But like any high society woman worth her salt, I know how to handle it with grace and dignity.
I suppose you are looking pleasant as well. Luke's busy with work, unfortunately. Rochelle isn't here.
A shame. I do hope he isn't causing you much trouble. That husband of yours can be a bit daft sometimes, acting like he's still some young bachelor. The wife sends her regards and her apologies, but something came up with a doctor and she needed to attend to it. You know her, being pregnant and all.
We make small talk. Rather, I'm forced to do so, as he would not leave my side after finding his place there. Much to my chagrin, I've been extricated from the few who flock in hopes of flattering, for I can tolerate them far better than Lee. He is a nice enough person, and I adore his wife, who is obviously the brains behind the two. But there is something unsettling about him. I do not trust him as much as I want to. Dots. He regales me tales of the Luxborn Police Department, a different affair to the usual gossip I am privy to, and though I loathe to admit, it is interesting nonetheless. I expect the topic of business to die out quickly, which would be understandable enough due to the confidential nature of his work. But, oh boy, was I wrong.
So, we're in civvies, I steal and drive off with one of the police mobiles, right? In the mirror, I see the mutant chasing on foot and screaming about theft. The look on his face was priceless when I parked in the garage.
Oh my. You made him chase you all the way home for a prank. What did Rochelle have to say about that?
Rochelle has a strange love and hate affair with Lee. He is a married man who did not grow up past his early 20s, judging by the way he acts. Surprisingly enough, they've been married for a good 20 years, a lifetime if you compare it to my marriage of 7 years with Luke. I, on the other hand, well, Luke is no Lee. I should be happy about that, I suppose. Although my darling did have his moments.
The wife pulled my ear and gave me a good talking to, though. Besides, we live in a flat a block away, so it wasn't much of a grand chase.
Weren't you living in a house near the countryside?
Moved for work, you know. Or you probably don't.
No, I don't. But a flat in downtown. I suppose if that's what you like.
Oh, it's horrid. Hate that tiny place, no matter how convenient it can be for work. 55 square yards are not enough when you need to get away from the wife. I wouldn't mind a place away from the city. Even started looking at the ads. I spied an interesting lot, actually. Heard it was finally put up for sale. Or that something mansion, you know the one with all the ghost stories.
I know what he's talking about. There are really only a few urban legends around here. It's...
The Ermagood Mansion?
That's the one. Worthy of a king it is. I'd buy it myself, but Rochelle would only gripe if I brought it up to her. Not to mention all the expenses a place like that. It'll be a real fixer-upper. You also have to find someone willing to work there with how superstitious people can be.
If it becomes a problem, just hire someone to do an exorcism.
Actually, I do know of someone who could be up to the task. You remember the Ludgates party at their Christchurch summer residence?
Of course. It was an excellent soiree. Everything was so classy, too. Such good taste.
Oh, that place was a pigsty until they hired out this interior designer and they turned it into a bloody palace. She worked for the Exodus for their apartment in Soho too, and they recommended her when we were looking up pieces for our beach house in Porto Colom. I think I have a business card no, I must have left it in my other jacket. Anyway, she's called, what's her name? McCullough, Marianne, I believe, yes. But truly, if anyone were to get that place in McCullough, well, they'd be the envy and the talk of the town.
Well, if you put it that way, I might just snatch it up for myself. This place was starting to feel a bit small lately anyway.
Sure, a 3-story penthouse might not fit the definition of small for some people. Dots. Okay, maybe a lot of people. But it isn't big enough to have grand parties in. As it is, I only invited about 30 people to this one, and it already feels cramped in here. It certainly would be nice if I didn't have to ride an elevator up and down several floors before I can get anywhere as well. All Luke's words and not mine. Besides, I've been looking for a good anniversary gift. Luke might like this one. Where is he anyway? Luke is dressed to the nines as he usually is, and looks ready for whatever the day will throw at him. His butler and valet wait at his side just in case he isn't as ready as he looks. Oh sure, that is normal. What is confusing me is the fact that he's on his way out of the penthouse, considering we won't have anywhere to go until much later. Hannah Wright Nee Evans. Birth date April 30th, 31 years old. She's an heiress, former finance manager, British. Masters in Business Administration. Of the Luxembourg upper class, used to living a life of luxury. Absent parents. Never enough. Studied hard in order to make her parents proud.
Where are you going?
I am to attend the Triad Autumn Tasting. I do believe I informed you of this 2 weeks ago.
Yes. And might I remind you that I had stricken that off your schedule? Because 1, the doctor told you to stop consuming so much alcohol. And 2, I informed you a few days ago about the open house we are going to attend in its place. I've even found this marvelous interior designer, Mary Ann McCullough.
It's a 3.5-hour drive to Cardiff. I don't have time for this. This is like that little party you threw all over again. You don't inform me of it, and you expect me to stay and be a gracious host when I have business elsewhere. You know how I operate, Hannah. Unless this was penciled in, I am sticking to my schedule.
If I may intrude, the madam is correct. Your physician did insist you moderate your drinking, unless you wish to incur acute pancreatitis.
Oh, no thank you.
And you did have this open house penciled in last Wednesday morning.
Bullocks, I don't remember doing so.
Well, you did. While very hungover, in fact.
He did. Moaned about me being too loud, but gave in after some pushing. Perhaps that was a bit too cruel and manipulative of me, but...
Whose side are you on?
Come on, Luke. You promised we'd do whatever I want this weekend.
Gordon Bennett, fine. I am giving this house tour of yours a chance, but if it proves to be a waste of time, I am going to Cardiff, and you are going to take a cab home. Are we clear?
Apparently I accidentally just skipped. Well... This is the text that just missed. Why must he treat me this way?
Yes, I am very happy, Luke. Because for once in a very long time, we are doing what I want. I'm ecstatic. Understood? And this would be perfect if you stop acting like a child who needs their nappy changed. We will be leaving after lunch for the Ermengarde mansion. You are going to park your rear in the car and keep mum. And you are going to behave during the tour.
Needless to say, Luke looks a bit shocked at my little outburst. He opened and closed his mouth a few times, struggling to reply before he crosses his arm to look like, well, a moping child.
Any more rules for the...
Alright. Skip ahead again. Luke and Hannah are at the Ermengarde mansion, and they're talking to Marianne about the plans for the interior design remodeling of the place. So are we freeing up the schedule, or are we questioning the need for a meeting?
But I guess we can free up a day to meet with you. I don't really need another maudlin Monday reading about Maury anyway. The book club can function without me for one day. What time shall we be seeing each other? How does lunch sound?
Besides, my house has higher priority over the book club. Why, we can hold the next meeting in this place. Surely the beauty and grandeur of it will inspire spirited and lively debates about whether the modern-day writers could match up to the classics. I might as well clear up the rest of my week to handle whatever affairs buying this mansion requires of me. Any social activity can be put off until the Ermengarde, or rather the Wrights Mansion, Great Debut. I'll have my fill of great parties and gatherings, especially when I organize them myself.
That sounds good. Although, with a project of this scope, we might need most of the day to tackle your concerns. A more thorough inspection of the place is also preferable.
Breakfast then! It's a date.
It's really not.
Alright, Monday, 10 o'clock sharp.
Just have to check something real quick, making sure I'm on the right path here.
We'll see you then.
Actually, Marianne has suggested that we meet at 9, but who is even awake at that unholy hour? I was lucky enough to wake up this morning before Luke went all the way to Cardiff. We say our goodbyes, shake hands, and make it clear without outright saying it that we now own this house. By the time we left the mansion grounds, sunset is almost upon us.
So, you really want to buy this place then? That's a bit of a big impulse buy, even coming from you. Not that I'm complaining.
I feel elation when I hear those words from him. It's not every day one is able to please someone like Luke. He gives away false flattery to sway those who starve for his attention and approval, but in the privacy of closed doors he would often express his grievances. He neither censored himself in front of me nor spared me from his criticism.
You have been saying the penthouse was getting a bit too small for you. Happy anniversary!
Oh. That time of the year already?
He forgot about it last year too. I understand that he's a busy man, but...
Is that why you want to buy it?
Yes, you don't like it?
I do, but I remember you used to talk about how you wanted to live next to the beach.
Botany Bay, Kent. I remember the sea, water that stretched on for miles and miles as far as the eyes can see. As a kid, I loved our beach trips, swimming all day as much as I could. I was a well-behaved child, and the only time I was ever truly difficult was when I refused to get out of the waters, even when my fingers had gone all wrinkly. And even when they managed to pull me out of the water, there was always sandcastles. The day before we married, I told Luke that I wanted a house on a beach and a dog. And a kid or two. None of those came true 7 years later.
That was a childish dream. Living next to the beach is so impractical if you really think about it.
I don't know. It's not a bad thought to see you in a bathing suit every day.
Maybe another time, love. We still have forever, don't we?
He says nothing, only grabbing my hand and holding it tight as we spend the rest of the ride home in silence. I miss the sea. Sick and hovering over the loo at 3 in the morning, the picture I paint right now is hardly glamorous. A horribly fishy taste is left in my mouth as I throw up what I had for dinner, and I hate the acrid stench that fills the lavatory. The burning sensation at the back of my throat is no help whatsoever. I can feel another wave of nausea come up on me right when the door opens.
Hannah, what are you doing so early out of bed?
I'm fine, love. I must have just eaten something bad.
That's all I managed to say before vomiting again into the porcelain throne. Lovely.
Just go back to bed, Luke. I'm going to clean up here.
I refuse to look at him. I don't want him to see me like this. The last time I've had a horrible morning retching into a toilet was during my college years, being the life of the party. Thoughtless and shameless, I had thrown away months to frivolous merriment and pointless hookups. I didn't even retain any of the connections I had made from that time. Sure, they still know of me and I still know of them, and we do business from time to time. But I've lost touch with anyone who I didn't see on a daily basis. I hardly have any of the friends I had when I still was Hannah Evans. Teachers, fellow university students, drinking buddies, and old conquests like Jack.
no, don't touch me, sweetie. It's disgusting. I'm disgusting.
Luke sits down next to me on the toilet floor to hold my hair even as I cough up more fish. He wipes the vomit from the corner of my mouth and just stares.
Do I need to fire someone? I don't feel sick.
Just feeling a bit under the weather, dear. It's been unbearably hot as of late, hasn't it? I do wish it would rain.
Are you sure it wasn't those sweets? I told you not to eat those sweets.
Maybe. Well, don't laugh.
Well, I can't help if you make that sort of face.
He starts chuckling, and soon he's in a fit of laughter. The scene happens next to a loo filled with sick, just makes the whole thing bizarre, and it nearly makes me start laughing as well. I tries to stifle it, though, as I smack him on the shoulder.
I'm not making a face, Luke. Stop laughing. Shut up.
When he would not stop laughing, I let myself go as laughter bubbles from my own throat, and I forget whatever ill feelings plagued me. We are just husband and wife laughing together at a funny face, the little things in life. I let myself go because I know that these moments will not last forever. But if I just know the terrible things that are to come for us, I would have wished everything I have then and there that the laughter stayed.
Hiya! Come on now!
During the open house, Hana pressured the estate agents to sell her the mansion. The rights also met their interior designer. During the ride home, Hana revealed that the mansion is her anniversary gift for Luke. Things seemed to be looking good until Hana suddenly fell ill later that night. The place is bustling with movers carrying furnishings here and there, along with several trunks of personal belongings taken from her penthouse. Luke watches them like a hawk, making sure nothing is handled carelessly or gets stolen.
Careful now. I know your pictures are framed by cheap plastic, but those are framed by African Blackwood and are one-of-a-kind commissioned painting. Each one is easily worth a lifetime of what you lot make.
Luke, do the dishwashers go into the kitchen or the butler's pantry?
Pantry, Buttercup. Careful, that's Emma No, you there, put that down. You do not manhandle a Napoleon Abreu.
I can see the exasperation, and I have to send the foreman an apologetic glance. Even Johannes rolls his eyes as he goes by. Considering Luke is always like this during a project, Johannes and I have gotten used to it. Poor Marianne, on the other hand, looks a bit stressed at seeing the gigantic mess before quickly going back to work. Everything just has to be perfect exactly the way he wants it. One little thing out of place, one little thing that didn't fit the image he clearly constructed in his head, and Luke gets bent out of shape.
Sweetie, why don't we go and sort your suits upstairs? Let Johannes and Marianne and the foreman deal with the rest of the work.
We have this, Mrs. Wright.
Yes, please do go before a blood vessel bursts. Bloodstains are so troublesome to clean.
Taking him by the hand, I lead him upstairs into our bedroom. This place has been arranged first so that we can get some rest, no matter what state the rest of the mansion is in. I am definitely glad I can just lie down on a soft, comfy bed after what has been a busy morning. Watching Luke act like his life depended on getting this move done is tiring all on its own. And to think I have the whole day of this ahead of me. I feel the bed dip beside me as Luke sits down with a sigh.
Well, I can't wait for this to be over.
I don't know. It's fun seeing you all fired up. Here at home and not at work, you know.
You know I can't always be home, Hana. I have a company to run, unless you've forgotten.
I haven't forgotten. You're the one who insists on being there to make sure each and every little thing is under control. I just really miss you sometimes, and I wish you were at home more often. Why, if you're not careful, I might go a bit loopy and I'll start bringing cats home. And soon enough, one day you'll find yourself going home to a farm just filled with felines that follow you everywhere.
Oh, don't bluff. The things would shred up your precious. Besides, you don't even like cats.
True, true. Dogs are infinitely superior, of course.
But what about the wet dog smell? The mess? I'm not cleaning up after a mutt, no matter how cute, if you think about it. A cat would be better.
We laugh. It's not always like that. We can just lie down and talk about these sort of things, to joke around as if we're teenagers again, with very little problem in the way of responsibility and roles. Tira's genuine honest to good laughter is a rarity. This is just the second time as of late, and I can only see it as signs of good things to come.
Oh, good point. I guess we could just have kids. That is, if you prefer dealing with soiled nappies and sick as opposed to dead birds, mice, and litter boxes. I've already told Marianne about turning the second bedroom into a children's room.
I guess sometimes I don't know when I'm crossing a line. I didn't say that I'm a good comedian, did I?
Not this again.
What? I wasn't being serious.
It's not something you take the piss out of. Having a kid is a big responsibility, Hana. We've talked about this, haven't we? I'm not ready to be a parent. I'd probably end up killing the little brat by the week's end.
What should I say? Alright, we're gonna save here just to make sure. We need to bring down Luke's affection here.
Carly likes you well enough.
Damn. Alright, wrong thing then. We're gonna have to do the other one. I feel guilty, uneasy again, even about bringing this topic up. This isn't the first time I brought it out there, considering we've been married for 7 years. But I should have learned my lesson. Talking about it has always gotten me disapproval. After all, this is one of the surefire ways to get Luke into a terrible mood.
I'm sorry, but I do think you...
Don't finish that sentence, Hana. Just don't. We know how this discussion ends. Let's not fight over what-ifs and if-onlys.
But what if we are going to have a family, Luke? What then?
I just told you. No what-ifs.
We won't talk about it until you're ready.
Let's not talk about it then. Ever.
The silence that follows is stifling. I avert my gaze from him, favoring the view of our four-poster bed over seeing his embittered expression. Just thinking of how insensitive I am for bringing it up makes me feel sick to my stomach. We stay still, neither of us dare to make the first move to leave. Until a crash from downstairs cuts through the tension.
Oh, bloody hell, what is it now? I can't get away for 10 minutes without someone mucking something up. That better not be what I think it is. I know it's only an 8 million yen vase, but I swear,
I don't stop him as he storms off, and he doesn't even bother to look my way. Yet I can still feel his eyes boring into me, alone as per usual. The right couple moved into their newly bought mansion today and was already preparing for a housewarming party. During a short break, the couple had a brief discussion about children. Luke didn't sound too welcoming of the idea. I really should be used to it by now. I can feel the minutes tick by with me just lying there, feeling miserable and full of self-pity. I have rolled over to lie on my stomach at this point, with my face buried into the pillows when there's a knock at the door. Grumbling at them to go away doesn't work, as a voice comes from the other side.
Madam, the photographer from Luxury Living is here.
Wait, is that today? Oh, yes. People have caught wind of our new mansion the very moment we left the open house. Luke had boasted he could acquire the property in no time and allowed a photo shoot for an interior design machine to be scheduled today. Well, there were complications, and it took longer than it usually does for us.
In a minute, Hansi.
Johannes, if you could at least make it through the end.
Tell them I'll be right down, Hansi.
The mansion grounds has been one of the first things to be fixed up aside from the bedroom. Although it's still a work in progress, it had a promising start and I can already see the flower patches. Luke's favorite daffodil stands out easily, having been transplanted from the pots that used to litter the rooftop of our penthouse. Why, if the moving crew thought that Luke was being hard on them, they clearly didn't see the landscaper on his way out. The man looked like he was ready to faint, and Luke seemed ready to kill him by the end of their discussion. It is in the gardens that I see him standing near the flowers in quiet admiration. He is hard to miss the hulk of a man that clearly did not belong, and the big backpack and suitcase that he has with him makes him look much larger. It is a peculiar sight seeing someone who looks like he does, handling little delicate things with such care. He looks up from the gardens and does a double take before a friendly face replaces his serene expression.
Miss Wright, yeah? Hi, Zachary Steele here from Luxury Living, ma'am. Hope you weren't waiting too long. But it looks like you're still moving in, huh? Thought for a second there my calendar was wrong and I came here too early.
The one and only. Welcome to Maison de Rai. And yes, we've been in the process of moving in as we were delayed. But it won't be a problem. They're just adding a few things here and there, and you should still be able to do your work. Where's the rest of your crew then, Mr. Steele?
Zach is fine, please. Mr. Steele makes me feel like I'm a mascot for a cleaning product. Anyway, I'll be your one-man crew for today. Don't worry, been doing this gig for a while now.
You must be quite the veteran to handle this on your own. We've had a full crew coming into our penthouse the last time we were covered in your magazine.
Veteran? Oh, your words are too kind, Miss Wright.
Hana, if I get to call you Zach, you have my permission to call me Hana.
Alrighty then. Anyway, I'm no veteran, but I know my camera well enough to make sure this is a good shoot. You can trust me on that, Miss Wright, Hana.
Zachary proves quickly enough that I can in fact trust him, his skills with the camera and his experience in this industry at the very least. He is kind and courteous, listening and following as I lead him around the house. A really nice fellow, and he treats our household staff well whenever we cross paths with them. I answer his questions to the best of my ability, and he's patient enough to answer mine whenever I get curious enough. For one, I ask what the bags are for. They are quite the magician's toolkit. From inside, he had several procured items to embellish the interior with. Bowls of fruits, lemon, trays with paper mills, stacks of cookbooks, cutting boards, and glass canisters filled with colorful nuts and grains are brought in for a kitchen setting. For the bathroom, there are white towels, seashells, and decorative soaps. There are other things as well, too numerous to count, all in that large backpack and suitcase.
Tricks of the trade. Softens up a room, makes a place feel more homey, and fills it up with text. But you guys probably have better stuff I can use for this.
No lights. Don't tell me all of these are just props.
Well, I've got my tripod here. For things like these, natural light is best. I'll just have to set the shutter speed to a real slow setting, and as long as nobody steps into the shot, it'll look great.
Oh, it better.
We go through the rooms one at a time, although we first tackle the ones that the movers have no business in anymore. The ballroom needs a little preparation with this grand design, although there is some trouble at first with the wide open space and the pictures being backlit. It is in the kitchen that Zachary's props come in handy, considering how Johannes kept the place so neat and sterile, one can practically eat off the floor. We carry on touring the house and taking pictures where we can, with the exception to the rooms, which have yet to gain any purpose or design. Too bad I can't take a sneak peek at his photos yet. Funnily enough, he's using a traditional camera. I didn't even know film still existed. With the way he speaks, however, I can see that he knows enough about his craft that I'm not too worried about botched photographs. I imagine photography must be cathartic for him, judging by how at ease he looks while taking pictures. There are small snippets of conversation in between the clicking of the camera. He even goes as far as to talk about these terminologies like shutter speeds and aperture when I ask about the technical aspects. I can't quite see the picture as it's made, much like when I watch artists paint on their canvas, but just watching someone passionately practicing their craft such as this is exciting in its own way. Going through the main rooms has been quite the exercise for both of us. Despite that, he has been so nice, and I find myself putting on my best smile. But it is as we're talking pictures in the foyer that everything comes to a standstill for a moment. Just a moment. And had I not been paying attention, I wouldn't have even noticed. It is merely a split second when Zachary's rhythm is put to a halt. His finger doesn't move to release the shutter. Yet he also doesn't pull the camera away from his face, gaze still firmly fixed at the viewfinder. His hands shaking, there is a light sheen of sweat on his forehead.
Zachary?
No response.
Zach? Is something the matter?
Lowering his camera, he blinks and stares at something behind me before shaking his head. Turning around, though, I see nothing that could have gotten his attention.
Oh no, there's nothing wrong. I just remembered something, that's all. Let's get back to the pictures. Can you move a bit more to the left, yeah?
I struggled to respond this time. There's a sudden weight on my back and an indescribable tightness around my throat. Everything stops, and everything starts again as I manage to choke
If
out.
you're sure.
I don't know what just happened. It was probably just a dizzy spell. I'm fine. And he said he's fine. We continue at the same pace as before, although there is an unspoken agreement that we will not talk about what happened.
So, is this a full-time job for you then?
Nah, I just freelance mostly, for magazines, newspapers, and events. So you can't really call it a full-time job. It's fun and it puts food on the table, but it's not what I really want to do. At least, not all the time.
What is it that you want to do then?
Maybe I've been out of line sticking my nose into other people's business, but I can't help but ask. I regret doing so as I see his shoulders slump and the easygoing air he has fades away. He looks torn over whether or not he wants to talk about it or not.
Films. Documentaries mostly. But cinematography is a lot more difficult than photography, right? I was working on this thing, actually.
What thing?
Well, it wasn't really a big thing. People didn't like Blue Fonzie very much.
People don't like a film about color. I suppose they would have liked Blue Bibby a lot more.
Very funny.
So, Grand Director, do you want to tell me what Blue Fonzie is all about?
He hesitates, but when I refuse to budge on the matter, he gives in and spills it all out. Bleu Français. There is le plus sombre des noirs britanniques. Dark blue, the darkest hours of the black British. He speaks with the passion of one who has gone through the very matter he is concerned with. There is conviction, knowledge, and experience in his speech. Why, I would have told him that he is an amazing speaker if only I wasn't so engrossed listening. Prejudice and discrimination in schools and the workplace. Lesser chances for opportunity and the higher chances of being treated like a criminal. He spoke of blacks and people of color in general still being treated like second-class citizens, all because of the color of their skin. It is all just positively riveting and sad. It comes to a point where he soon loses steam, looks abashed, realizing what he has just done.
Sorry, I just got so carried away and...
It's fine. It is really so fascinating to watch people talk about their passion after all. You should see how your eyes light up when you speak so fiercely. You do have very beautiful eyes.
Uh-huh. Thanks, I guess.
I want to say that I understand where he's coming from, but I really don't, do I? I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, and I've lived a charmed life. It hasn't been perfect, but the difficulties I've been through pales in comparison to what others experience on a daily basis. I certainly don't know how I would have fared were it any different. Would I still have met Luke, and would he still have loved me if I was any lesser?
What was your home like? These things you talk about. It sounds like you... Well, I don't mean to pry, I mean...
Live with my older sister and my grandparents. We had a shop selling all sorts of things below our flat. And well, I was one of the few non-white, non-British students in class. I didn't get pushed around or anything straight up. Even then, I was one of the biggest kids around, but a pencil and notebook would go missing, you know?
Oh, that I knew. Children can be so cruel at times. Of course, it may be a slightly different story when you've got personal guards and the stolen item is not a pencil, but an expensive heirloom.
So what about you? How you liking your new house? It's pretty impressive.
It's nice, I suppose.
You suppose? Not big enough?
What? No, oh, don't be a bully. It's just that...
I understand if you don't want to talk about it.
I was a little girl all dolled up and treated like fragile porcelain, with nursemaids waiting for me, hand and foot. All the material possessions anyone could ever want I could ask for on a whim, and it would be handed to me just like that. But I barely saw my parents. Just goodbye kisses in the morning before they went off to who knows where they were needed next. I saw them more often on the telly or in the papers than I ever did in person.
I remember my old house. It was a lot like this one. Big walls and big halls, but nobody in it. Not really. It makes you think how alone you are.
A pensive mood overcomes us, and there's a moment where neither of us are sure how to go on from there. Things have gotten a bit too personal, yet it isn't wholly uncomfortable, like as if we've been friends before.
Well, that's normal, ain't it? You just moved here. You'll make home out of it yet.
He certainly makes it easy to believe that. My childhood house is indeed like a lot like this one, just as large and extravagant, and just as empty. I hope he's right.
So, Monsieur le Photographe, you've covered the one and only Ermengarde mansion. What's next on the agenda?
The interview?
Boring. It's an interior design and housing magazine.
And they want to know what Miss Wright has to say about her interior design and house.
Honor Wright thinks she bought a magnificent house that she can certainly brag about. Blah, blah. Boring. You know what they should print more of? I watched an interesting documentary the other day. Bleu Foncé, the darkest hours of the Black British. I recommend you watch it. Those are the things that people should know about. What do they care if I use a purple or green bowl of fruit in my kitchen?
People, right?
Oui. People are shite. What do you think? Do I look good with this angle?
I strike a pose while he's being busy, taken aback for a moment, probably not expecting me to go and say such a crass word. But he recovers quickly, and after snapping a few shots, he grins.
Yeah, vous êtes belle. You want copies of these ones?
Yes, please. So, the big boy knows French. You must have wooed a few ladies. Unless you're into gents. Either way, French is, after all, the language of romance.
No, I don't know about quoting fancy poetry, but I've made lunch for a girl before, and they did like that fancy French cuisine.
Can you cook your best?
I can cook just about anything as long as I know the recipe.
C'est magnifique.
It has been too long since I've had a nice and proper chat with a good friend. No, Lee is certainly not a good friend, and although we've just met, Zachary is the sort who can probably befriend anyone. He's just a comfortable person to be around with, a bit too comfortable. The photo shoot went by a breeze, and somewhere along the way, as we talk and laugh, I find myself getting a bit too close without realizing. He'll give me this strange look until I back off, and he'll go back to asking questions after I agreed to do his little interview. And it's just odd. Well, no. Me being friendly isn't that odd, that's how I am. Zachary is the one that's being odd. Why anyone else would absolutely welcome the extra attention I give them. He, on the other hand, looks almost flustered about it. He should be used to different personalities by now, having to deal with various people when he works, and if not, he needs to start. Perhaps nobody has shown him attention of this kind, but he's a big boy. He should be able to handle me. After all, all it is a friendly touch here, a pretty smile here, and gently swaying of the hips as I move around. Zachary grew more and more red every time he noticed. Am I being mean as I find enjoyment in seeing him unravel? Perhaps. And this went on during the interview, and beyond that, there's nothing wrong with what we're doing, right? Zachary and I are just having a playful, friendly chat while enjoying the outside view. At least that's how I see it.
I'm sorry, but I'm really getting distracted. Could you maybe stop doing that?
Stop? I'm not sure if I want to, though. Oh, what are we gonna do here? You know what? Will be
I'll
nice.
stop if it makes you uncomfortable, sweetie.
Sorry.
No, I should be the one apologizing. Why, you're a shy one, aren't you, big guy?
It's not that.
He gestures to the ring on my finger and lets the fact of the matter hang heavily between us. Being told implicitly that I am too forward is not a common occurrence. I think I'm more stunned at the fact that he pointed it out rather than, well, being rejected. Not that anything is going to happen between us in the first place. It was just going to be some harmless flirting, right?
So, you've never had a girlfriend?
No, no boyfriend either. You know, just in case you were gonna ask for that one next.
And you haven't even had your first kiss?
Not a one, ma'am.
Do you want to have your first kiss today?
I can't help it. I really, really can, and I'm going to apologize lots later. Surely by the catty smile on my face, it is obvious that I'm just pulling his leg. The laugh I fail to contain certainly gives it away, if it still isn't obvious, but still he lights up in embarrassment, stammering and sputtering objections.
You're married, and this will be extremely unprofessional.
I never said I would kiss you, silly. Oh, Johan!
No, what? No.
Oh, Johan.
Don't call your butler. She's Hannah.
That would be for the better. I don't think his husband would appreciate it if I made him kiss another man. I do not think he can hear us from here either. But it is hard to think you're not taken, Zachary. Why, whoever becomes your girlfriend will be so lucky to have you. You can cook and take wonderful photographs, wonderful meals and wonderful memories.
I can play guitar too.
You can? Oh my. Wonderful serenades as well then. Perhaps I can find a young lady who deserves a fine, strapping young gentleman like yourself.
Let's not get carried away. Besides, I gotta be going. It's getting late and I got someplace else to be.
A shame. I will be expecting you again soon, I hope. For a copy of my photographs, yes?
Of course. I'll even deliver them personally. Just, you know, don't try to make me kiss your butler when I drop by.
As fate would have it, the very moment the words leave his mouth, Johannes comes out of the house. Judging by the slight raise of his brows, he has only heard the tail end of the
There
sentence.
shall be no kissing of any butlers under this roof. Danke.
But you are not under a roof, are you, Hansi?
To my amusement, he takes a step back, safely placing him within the threshold of the foyer and under the roof of the house. And just as ever, he's quick to return with a sardonic reply.
I am now. As I was saying, madam, it's about time for supper. Will I be needing to set an extra place at the table?
Oh, what? No, I was just leaving actually. So you have a good night, Hannah, and you too, Hansi.
It was nice to meet you, Zach, honey. You have a safe trip.
He nods, and the grin on his face as we say our goodbyes is the sweetest that I have ever seen. I linger, looking after him with his relatively tiny bicycle, backpack safely secured in the basket by the front, and suitcase hooked to the back. I watch as he went down the path back to Anslin Village until he's nothing more than a blip in the horizon. I cannot help but the small smile on my face as I go inside for supper. Entering the dining hall causes me so much confusion. Hannah met Zachary Steele, a freelance photographer from Luxury Living and Interior Designer magazine. Zachary was tasked to interview Hannah and to take pictures of the mansion and its new owners. What should have been a professional meeting ended up being friendly and perhaps too personal. Where are we in the tree? Oh, this is a pretty short route. Okay. It is dark. For a moment, I thought the electric work is not up to par, but that clearly isn't the case, as every room is bright with artificial light, and finding the light switch is a monumental task considering the size and my unfamiliarity with the room. To make matters worse, the darkness grants the room a very different atmosphere, eerie and frightening. It takes longer than I thought to find the switch, something that will have to be rectified later on. My skin starts to prickle, and there is the distinct feeling of being watched, and it unsettles me and only spurs me on my search. And when I do open the lights, there is a hiss.
I'll turn the lights down, woman!
There at the end of the hall is my beloved husband with his face in one hand and a glass at the other. Perhaps I can let it go if it's only one glass of wine, however I can feel myself go livid at for seeing the toxic green liquid gleam mockingly at me.
Luke, what? Are you drinking absinthe? You know what the doctor said. Absinthe, Luke. Are you actively trying to kill yourself? Because if you are, we can just hit you with a bloody car.
Honeybee, Buttercup, not too loud, please. Besides, it's Lelouch, not too strong. Just hair of the dog that bit me. Helps with the hangover, dearest.
You drank? When?
This morning, love. Don't be mad. I just needed a few drinks, having to deal with those simpletons. And maybe I had one too much. You don't see me whinging about you leaving me to handle them on my own.
I had to attend the photo shoot and interview with Luxury Living. Let's not make this about me, Luke. This is about you and your drinking problem and...
Oh, I don't know, Hannah, darling. What if my drinking problem, as you like to call it, is linked to you. If we think about it that way, this discussion is about you. That was pretty mean of you, leaving me alone to do all the work like that. You can't use the interview as an excuse either, honey. I was informed the moment your little interview was done. So, what was it then, What were you doing?
What's it gonna be? Shall I tell the truth or tell a little lie? We're gonna make Luke pissed off at us. I think...
I was talking with Zachary, the photographer for Luxury Living.
Alright, that pisses him off. Good. I have no reason to tell lies. It's not like I'm guilty of anything, but as Luke's expression turns, he makes me feel like I actually blamed for something. He has a way of making me laid bare with just a look. That had really struck with me when I first met years ago.
That giant Negro? You were having a secret meeting behind my back and it was with him?
Apologies.
What are you implying?
I'm implying nothing. I'm just worried. You know better than to trust those media types, but he must have been really friendly to occupy your time like that. But all he's looking for is his next big headline.
He's a photographer for an interior design magazine.
Doesn't matter. You let one little thing slip, one wrong move, and it'll blow up in the telly in the morning. He'll go to his journalist friends to gossip and make a quick
His eyes were the first things I noticed about him. They were like nature, the grass and the trees, wonderful and breathtaking. Now as I look at him, they're nothing but the same shade of green as the bloody damn drink in his hand.
He was a perfect gentleman, Luke. I can't say the same for you as of recent.
Excuse me again? We're talking about you, Hannah.
No. I am pretty sure we were talking about you and your drinking problem, Luke, right?
Hangover forgotten during the course of this little spot, the man jumps to his feet and seethes. It looks like he is barely stopping himself from throwing the nearest thing he can find.
Oh, it is not a problem. I can stop whenever I want. And even if it was, I think you can very well stay out of it, as it only affects my own kidneys or liver or whatever the bloody hell that shite pollutes. Whatever aftermath that occurs because of your little chit-chat with the Negro affects the both of us, however.
Apologies again.
Look, Luke. Nothing will happen. You have to relax. It was just a friendly chat.
Well, now I think I'm getting jealous. Or I would be if it weren't for this damn headache.
Maybe you should drink more.
Maybe.
Supper is spent in silence with nothing but the occasional sound of silverware. A grand feast has been served, well, grander than usual anyway, most likely due to Luke's complaint of stress. A platter of native oysters for starters, and a tranche of turbot with purple sprouting broccoli, lemons, capers, and anchovy sauce for means. To finish it off, black tea and golden syrup sponge pudding with custard. But when our appetites are appeased and the plates are cleared away, Luke stands, kisses me goodnight, and leaves me to stare at my half-empty cup. Only in the low of night I sit in a house too big and too empty, foreign and unwelcoming. Even with its warm tone and homely decor, it feels cold. There is no need for tears, however. I know I can get through this just like every other obstacle I've faced before. This is a minor setback in what I hope will be a long and happy life. To remind myself this is a place for Luke and for our future children fills me with a renewed vigor. Besides, it looks like someone is having a cry already. The wailing is far away and muffled. And at the same time, it shakes me to my very core as I hear it. As if the suffering is just standing right beside me. Hearing it sends a chill down my spine and makes my skin prickle with goosebumps. Dots. Who is that? Curiosity sinks in as I follow the sorrowful sound into the kitchen and into the wine cellar hatch.
Hello? Is anybody down there?
During supper, Hannah found Luke drinking absinthe, and this caused an argument. While Hannah was angered by her husband's drinking problem, Luke was suspicious of his wife's activities, not having seen her early after the whole afternoon despite finishing Luxury Living's interview early. Then there was this crying woman. I am curious and concerned, but there is no way I'm going down into a dark and humid underground. I'm not as enthusiastic as Luke and considers him quite the connoisseur. However, I cannot also bring myself to go to bed with this racket going on. If it is one of the household help, they will surely need some talking. After all, this wouldn't be the first time I've gone and found one of the maids sobbing their eyes out over one thing or another. As professional as our staff are, they are still human. More often than not, it was other Johannas or I'd calm them down who would help them figure out how to go about things. Unfortunately, I'm not in high spirits right now, so I'm not as wholly benevolent. So I will. Alright, we're gonna save here because this is a big break, a big spot here. We're gonna call them up. We're not gonna open the hatch. I knocked 3 times. Waiting for any sort of reply yields me no results, and I've already touched the floor hatch far too many times than what I'd like. I take a deep breath before reaching out again to who's ever inside. I've learned from experience that people respond better to kindness than threats. Shouting angrily will not help in coaxing them out.
You, in the cellar! Do come out. We don't want Luke waking up and finding you in there, do we? That man would go ballistic thinking someone was trying to steal his precious wine.
Still nothing.
You can have a good cry. Just not in there, yes? Why don't you come out here and we can have a cuppa and you can tell me all about whatever it is you're bawling about?
With how long I am standing there, however, I'm starting to think of myself as a fool. I did not want to acknowledge this other feeling I have, especially as the wailing took an eerie turn. The thought of being played didn't sit too well with me, and I had to stop myself from getting too hot-headed as I try one more time.
Now you come out of there! That is an order from the lady of the house, do you hear me? Why, I ought to...
I freeze as a hand clamps down on my shoulder. The dread I've been feeling all this time makes itself known as I keel. Kneel, unmoving, not even daring to breathe. I can feel my heart pounding against my chest, but the touch is gone as quickly as it sees me. It is only Johannes when I look back.
Apologies, madam, for touching you like that. You were not responding to my voice, and you looked about ready to wake the whole mansion up.
I'm sorry. I was getting rather loud, wasn't I? But that crying woman in there, we must do something about her.
He grows silent for a moment and just looks concerned, or at least I'd like to interpret it as concern given how stoic our head butler usually is. Or rather, it must have been concern as he takes off a glove and presses the back of his hand against my forehead before his worrisome inquiry.
I beg your pardon. What? Crying woman? Are you feeling well, madam?
In the cellar? Can't you hear her?
Madam, Hannah, no one is down there.
What?
The cellar is locked. Only Luke and I have duplicates of the keys. Nobody is down there.
I stare at him in disbelief, but when I listen once more I hear no crying. Tugging at the hatch for good measure proves his words to be true, too. The thing won't budge unless I eat a key, short of using power tools on it.
Perhaps it is time for you to go to bed, madam. You are simply tired and hearing things, a perfectly normal human experience. But if you are still experiencing auditory hallucinations in the morning, you are free to consult with me.
There is a cold feeling in the pit of my stomach as he helps me to my feet. What he says makes sense, and who am I to question someone who used to be a doctor? I am just tired, that's it. A long day of moving, the interview, dealing with Luke. That all has me drained of any proper sense.
Yes, I suppose you're right. I just need some sleep, that's all.
Of course I'm right. Go on then. Gute Nacht.
Good night, Johannes. Good night, house.
It's just fatigue, that's what I keep telling myself, although I can't ignore the strange feeling in my gut. Either there is something wrong with this house, or there is something wrong with my head. Dots, sleep will be elusive tonight. Luke is already gone by the time I rise. There isn't a single hide, no hair of them to be found, and trying to call him on his mobile is a bust as it only goes straight to his voicemail. That's twice in a row he's gone on me, and for him to disappear today of all days is quite a bit upsetting because of what's to come. The morning is once again filled with a whirlwind of activity. Fortunately, I'm much more refreshed as I took a break from responsibilities. I haven't the faintest clue where Luke was yesterday. Today is going to be a busy day, and although unlike Wednesday, the master of the house isn't here right now, absent once again from its duties. Hopefully he'll be back in time for the party. This is our house after all, a grand housewarming party for the wonderful Wright Mansion. Every person of importance from Luxborn is invited, and there will be a few guests flying in here as well. Of course, there will be some people from the media, along with friends and acquaintances who are made no less important regardless of their status in society. Marianne and I discussed business and last-minute touches to the house before finalizing everything. Not that there is much change from our original plans. Bar any huge additions to the property itself, the mansion is nearly 100% complete.
You have certainly exceeded expectations, Marianne. Everything looks so marvelous, and in such a short time, too.
Well, I can't take all of the credit. People have certainly been enthusiastic about the idea of working on the Wright mansion. There won't be any more problems unless Mr. Wright has any more objections about the second bedroom.
Luke and I have a small tiff about making the second bedroom into a child's playroom, which I insisted is completely practical. In the end, he had to acquiesce. I didn't give him any choice in the matter. I even brought this wonderful wooden crib from an antique store yesterday, including some toys. Just in case anyone brings their baby, of course. Besides, we have little need for actual guest rooms. We hardly have guests who spend the night. If we absolutely have to, we often choose to foot the bill for the visit on one of our hotels instead, always at Luke's own insistence. And on the off chance that we actually let someone stay, the bedroom in the opposite wing is still up to the task.
Oh, no. We proceed with that room as planned. I already agreed to him having his greenhouse and his vineyard and his stables. He may as well let me have this one thing.
No, I did not agree to him to having a helipad.
Alright then. Well, do we have any other concerns? Anything we need to put on our agenda before the party commences?
No, I don't think so. Not unless Luke has anything else to say.
Is he around then? It'd be best if we can note down his requests right away, considering the scope of his usual ones.
Around? No. Where is he? Who knows where? I don't.
No, he's not around.
She didn't have to point out the obvious now, did she? After 7 long years, I'd already gotten used to him. I should be by now. Still not, apparently.
But don't you have a party?
I want nothing more than to complain, to whinge about how unfair this is. However, airing out one's dirty laundry is simply taboo among society. To do so will make you a ripe target for the next dinner party chit-chat. Vultures, a lot of them really. Or most of them at least. There is always good ones like Rochelle Lee. But put your trust in the wrong person and you'll find yourself eagerly picked apart.
Yes. But Luke's just being a sweetie, you see. That friend he's visiting. He's having marital problems and he's just trying to cheer him up.
Perhaps I am being a bit too rash, a bit too hot-headed in divulging details, but I thought myself clever with the plan to dress it up as gossip. Marianne's raised brow makes me unsure whether she is interested or not. Although that does make me think things better if she has no interest, and therefore has no hidden intent to utilize what I might say to her.
They've been married for a long time, and they've hit a... how do they say it? A rough patch. His wife has a drinking problem and can be very neglectful. The poor thing really does his best to be a good husband, but it's never enough for her. Sometimes I think it's the years. Maybe it's been so long that they've lost that romantic spark. What do you think?
You were asking for my personal opinion on the matter, ma'am? Do you want me to be honest, or...?
Do I want her to be honest?
I don't know, Marianne.
She hesitates, taking a sip of her coffee while I stare into my own cup of tea before she speaks.
Perhaps it has been the years. Perhaps not. It might just be the little things that have built up all this time. It might be something big. I wouldn't know all the details, but in any case with things like these, I've seen couples take time apart just to cool off. Sometimes they get back together in the end with lighter hearts, and sometimes they don't get back together at all, but part on better terms.
Speaking from experience, are we, Miss McCullough?
Well, that certainly got a rise out of her as her cheeks turn red and she nearly chokes on her coffee.
No. Nothing like that. I'm not interested in any fella even. It's just a thing I've seen happen a few times.
What if I said the couple are very public figures? They wouldn't want to take time apart unless it was really necessary. They wouldn't want people to talk.
Well, that's a load of guff. Not to mention that makes them a bit thick, doesn't it? Forget about what other people say. That's their relationship and they should do what's best for them.
And if they point out that you're being a hypocrite and they can also disregard what you say,
then that's their choice. I'm just saying that a break might do them good. A short time apart is better than someone trying to leg it out of the relationship or one ending up trying to murder the other out of frustration if they're even the slightest bit touched in the head. Because we don't want now, do we?
Foreshadowing. She trails off, having said her piece, and leaves nothing but the smell of coffee and Earl Grey between us. There is a calm despite the nature of what has just been discussed. To say that her words make me start is to think is an understatement. To say that I'm not considering her advice is a lie, and to say that this might just be the calm before the storm is a possibility. Others have short marriages, yes, but plenty have celebrated long and happy ones as well. My own parents celebrated their quarrel anniversary before they passed away. But 7 years? 7 years isn't a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. It isn't a whole lot of time to see what and where a relationship can bring us. And at the same time, 7 years, well, it hasn't been entirely made up of unhappy years, has it? It won't last forever. It's not supposed to anyway. I dread the thought that it might last for a very long time. I dread the thought that these small spats, these little disagreements, will turn into an all-out resentment. The idea that we will grow to hate each other with every fiber of our being scares me. I can't even pinpoint the exact moment when our blissful union turns sour. We can get through this, right? I know that I still do love him, and I feel that there's still a part of him that loves me in return. We just need to get our heads together and talk it out. Surely he will see some sense. There was a cough before Marianne closed her throat. I must have been quiet for so long, and I moved to apologize when she stands up. We both end up on our feet, unsure how to proceed. Some sort of odd, awkward shuffle occurs as we decide whether to sit back down or
I
not.
really should handle what's left of the work.
You won't be attending the party. Oh, you really must, Marianne.
I'll try to stay and chat. Maybe grab a few bites and a drink, but I can't be around for the entirety of the event. My apologies. Busy, busy, busy.
You must stay a while. I'd love for you to meet some of my friends, and they're ever so excited to meet you. You need to say hello to the Lees, at least. If it wasn't for them, I'd never even heard of you.
We'll see. So, if I can be excused?
Certainly. You'll have to excuse me as well. I must attend to the party before any early birds arrive, because, believe me, they will throw a fuss if things aren't ready, even when they're not supposed to be here until an hour later.
The scene outside the parlor is a great organized mess. Aside from our own household help, we've hired the service of the temp agency, which provides staff for the Right Enterprise in the hospitality sector. Hannah and Marianne were seen discussing the mansion's finishing touches before the housewarming party. On a whim, Hannah asked for Marianne's opinion about a certain couple having marital problems, at least the former, with something to think about after the latter excused herself from attending the party. Even our very skilled staff cannot undertake a party of this size on their own. Waiters, busboys, hostesses, and their staff captains move about in droves, carrying crockery and serveware good for several dozen people and then some. Chiefs and chefs and bartenders tail after Johannes, looking like scared little children as he escorts them through the kitchen and into the wine cellar to peruse the stocks to select what can be served at the party and what can be used for cooking.
No, we have a lot to do, and I believe we did not hire snails. Snails are for the dishes.
A string quartet readies up to play for the evening, turning their instruments as they fill the air with idle chatter. Floral decor worth thousands fill vases, wreaths, and baskets, while petals are scattered along the driveway up front. A nice sculpture of a reindeer is brought in carefully by a pair. It is followed by a simple cake, just a 5-tier white chiffon one with white chocolate mousse, fresh berries, and a light dusting of edible gold leaf. But despite the fact that I told Marianne how I will attend to all of this, I find myself unable to focus or care for any of it. I still have our discussion running in my mind, and looking at all of this, I only see Luke everywhere. There are these green things that Luke wanted to have for this party. I had wanted a small, elegant, and simple gathering with only a select few invited, namely the people I would actually trust to enter my home. I did not want any belayed politicians or paparazzi in here, no matter how used to it I am catering them.
At least be here for your party. Damn it, Luke.
The entire thing screams Luke Wright, and I can't help but add another question to my growing list of queries. When did I lose myself? And it's always been about him nowadays, isn't it? What about Hannah Wright? What about Hannah Evans? I used to be my own woman who made her own name, her own career, and her own decisions. Sure, I was already the social butterfly that I am today, but it wasn't all empty, shallow gossip and sitting pretty. I was also lauded for my knowledge and talent. Finance manager wasn't just handed to me just because my father owned the company. I had insisted that I start at the bottom so I could work my way to the top and prove myself. And I did. I worked numbers, managed budgets, money and accounts, analyzing the competition and market trends. There was the calculation of financial risk, cost reduction opportunities, auditor liaison, and public relations supervision of staff, and, well, I generally had a slew of responsibilities. Admittedly, I was already quite the attention seeker even back then, having dedicated most of my youth craving for my parents' approval. Failing that, I turned to the others, looking for praise from anyone who'd give it, however how fleeting it all was. And Luke, oh Luke, the way he's looked at me, the way he watches me and took a genuine interest. He had me disgustingly obsessed since day one, hasn't he? He saw me for me, Hannah Evans, with both my faults and achievements. The man didn't treat me like some damsel in distress or some prize to be won. I remember the nights before we were married where we talked about everything and anything, from big things like business, society, and philosophy, to little things such as what we had for breakfast or whether we liked cats or dogs more. We both preferred dogs. Nowadays, I'm just Luke Wright's wife. Dots. It's mostly my fault, isn't it? They told me that husbands preferred wives who were docile and subordinate, a woman who will always be there for him, yet would never outshine him in all aspects except beauty. A wife needs to be at home and attend to its needs, to have children, and to take care of him in his absence. They said I have no business working anymore after I was married. I can blame society, but I listened. Before I can fall further into this introspective pit of self-loathing, someone calls for my attention.
The guests have arrived, madam.
And Luke?
Running a bit late, I'm afraid.
Late for his own party. That man, I swear. He's probably looking to make a dramatic entrance, knowing him. Open the doors, then. We mustn't tarry.
Cars line up the driveway, peppering the front of the mansion with vehicles of every kind. Hold on, I gotta restart my stream. Sorry.